Just us. Well, hello everybody from wherever in the world that you're watching. I welcome you to the inaugural show of how to start and scale an agency. I've got, and as our tech team headed up by Mr. Anton says, we are live. Yep, and I'd like to welcome you to how to start and scale an SEO agency. Welcome, Felipe. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for the inviting.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So we're going to formally get going in maybe 2 or 3 minutes. We'll give people some time to come in, say their hello. So Renee, hello. Steve, hello. I've got you all in the comments. Oliver, hello. Please do let us know. Racin, hello. Please let us know what country you're in, what city you're in, whether you're in SEO, whether you're not in SEO. Hello, Dan. Hello, Sergey. We've got people from the Philippines. We've got the States. Probably should start naming cities, in fact.
That's from Brazil, yeah. There you go. Yeah. Hi, Lainara.
There you go.
Oi.
Hello, Scott. Felipe, what country and city are you in, my friend? We've not even introduced ourselves.
Well, yeah, I'm the moment in São Paulo, Brazil, where we have one of our offices. So I tend to stay here when it's warm and go to the UK when it gets a little bit warmer.
Good man, good man. Sao Paulo. It's my favorite Brazilian city. I used to live in Rio for 3 months, visited Sao Paulo for 4 days, got some tattoos in Sao Paulo, some of them which you can kind of see, and I really liked Sao Paulo. And I know that you've got a couple of tattoos as well. I've seen from some of you. Yes, there you go. Hello, yes, there you go. Hello, Marcia from Canada. We've got Canada in the house. We've got hello, Poston. Hello, Monir from the UK. We've got another agency from Manchester. So guys, please, hello, Abhinav from India. I'm really excited about today's webinar. We're going to formally get started in it's 2:01. I'm going to wait probably till about 2:03, 2:04, and then we'll formally get going. But please do say hello. If you've got any questions in the comments that you'd like to ask all of your questions there. Oh, hello, George, as well. George from Go International. That's one of our clients. Hello for us, Serbia. It's always nice to see. We've got France in the house as well. We've got Sweden. It's pretty non-stop. So please do Estonia.
There you go.
Dude, I'm impressed. We've really got Jayant. You're the first person who's capitalized it. INDI capital. We've got our first Spaniard. Pakistan we've got as well. This is awesome, guys. So please, keep telling us where you are. The whole premise of today's webinar, there's going to be more that's going to be coming, but the whole premise today is for any of you, really, if you're in the agency space or if you're thinking about moving into the agency space. Hello, Jan from Netherlands. I hope I pronounced it. If it's Jan, I think it is for the Dutch. If you're thinking about fundamentally moving into the agency space, or you're already in the agency space, predominantly, of course, on SEO, but really it applies to any type of agency owner, then this is going to be, for me, a really exciting webinar. You know, Felipe, and I'll give it 1 more minute because I'm beginning to introduce you.
Hold on.
So Racin, you're saying the video has an echo. Let us know, guys, if you can hear the audio okay. One of you tells us there's an echo, but hopefully everyone else can hear us okay. Just let us know that the audio is all clear, and we'll give it 30 more final seconds before I will begin the formal introductions, and I'll kick off with the actual questions, so to speak. So what time is it for you in Sao Paulo, Brazil right now, Felipe?
11:03.
Okay, brilliant.
Just before lunch.
Okay, so he's got lunchtime coming up. Thank you, Whitmer. No echo in Dallas. So there you go. Brilliant, perfect, guys, fantastic. So we've reached the 3-minute mark as promised, and now, guys, if you are tuned in and watching, today is really dedicated to yourselves. The whole point of this webinar that we're launching in partnership with Semrush is really about how you, if you're looking to build an agency from the ground up, if you're looking to start or scale an agency, it's probably the fastest growing digital segment in some ways, I'd expect. I've not looked at the statistics, but the amount of freelancers and agency owners that are popping up. It's growing at an incredible rate, and there isn't really a business that doesn't need marketing services. So that's why, with this in mind, thinking, of course, predominantly about SEO, I'm really excited to introduce Felipe Bazon. Now, Felipe, he is the CSO, the Chief SEO Officer. He used to be, as he told me, the CWO, the Chief Whatever Officer at Hedgehog Digital. They are a multi-location. They've got, and correct me if I'm wrong, they've got 2 branches in the UK. One of them is in Cornwall, I believe, and the other one, I think, is in Bedford. And then the one that Felipe is, of course, coming in live to you from is Sao Paulo. And Felipe is really amazingly recognized as being one of the top SEOs within the country of Brazil. And that's no joke. You've got 150, 200 million people there or something. So it's a big old country.
120.
There you go. There you go. I was wrong. So very briefly, I want to begin the show by inviting you, Felipe, to briefly, for those who have never met Felipe before or have not encountered him, just briefly say why, in your opinion, do you have a message when it comes to building an SEO agency that's worth sharing with the audience?
Well, I would say through the experience of being in the industry for quite some time, back in 2006, I started in the glory days of
14 years.
Directory submissions and the meta keywords and all that stuff. Still the days that we could kind of like get some good results with less work, let's say it. So, but over the times, I grew my experience working for Hedgehog in the UK. Then I came back to Brazil, was director of a big agency down here. And 2 years ago, I went back to Hedgehog to partnership with Alan, which is the founder. And just like a few months down the road, we saw the opportunity to open down in Brazil. And here we are, 2 years down the road, we've got a nice list of clients, not just here, but in the UK as well. And we've been scaling things up, I think that's what I want to share with you guys. How can you use the benefits of both countries to grow your business, let's say it.
And that was one of the reasons, I mean, I was personally really excited in hearing about the journey of yourself, which I want to come to, because I want to talk about your personal journey and becoming a recognized SEO. That's something that I think is a definite differentiator in the SEO game, because it's very, very difficult for a third party to distinguish the differences between one SEO person versus another when everyone's working from the same hymn sheet, if you like. There's not any proprietary software that you can refer to in SEO. A lot of it is about IP and about what, or about IQ rather. But before we come to that, I want to ask, how did that happen? How did Hedgehog Digital become a multi-country SEO agency?
Well, I would say from 2 years ago when I joined it again, back in 2017, me and Alan have been talking about it for a year or so. Alan was my mentor, was the guy that introduced me to SEO back in 2006. Long story short, we met in a bar in Spain, and he was as an Arsenal fan, me as a Brazilian, we loved football, and we were there talking about football. I was working as a bartender, I confess that before 2006, I had never heard about SEO.
Oh, wow.
And it's true. He was the guy that introduced me to it. He's been my mentor throughout these years, and now we are partners in business and so on. But then the fact that I speak fluently 3 languages, Portuguese, Spanish, and as you guys can see, English, that was one of the differentiators that helped me expand the business. I joke around that if it's in Portuguese, Spanish, or English, we can rank a website and we can help transform Google into a business generator for you. So that's why and how we became an international agency, exploiting this language, let's say.
I mean, at that time, you were a bartender in the UK, was that right? Or
in Spain.
So you were a bartender in Spain. Where, in Madrid or Barcelona or
Alicante?
Okay, so you were a barman in Alicante, right? In 2006, you met Alan at that time, Alan, and at that time you had no background in SEO. And fast forward, and you now not only transitioned country, you transitioned career, you transitioned skill set, and you've also become one of the most kind of respected SEOs. For someone who finds that whole journey overwhelming and kind of like crazy, can you walk through your memories of some of the early days from going like that journey? I'd love to kind of talk about some of the early steps that you made to make such a big transition.
Wow. Well, as I said, I was working in the bar, and Alan offered me this opportunity. I started doing this course. Forgive me for saying the name of a competitor here at Semrush. I did back in the days the Web CEO University. That's ages ago. I think it was on the first SEO courses around at the time. And I did it, and I started learning about it. I had a little background in coding and so on. I'm more of a marketeer if I need to position myself nowadays. So I had this knowledge, and I grew interest into it, and I started learning more about it, got the certification, started working at the time from my mom's flat in Spain to Hedgehog. Actually, at the time it was called DHUK, then it grew to be Hedgehog. And I grew interest into it, and I was like, man, I used to do a very, very manual job at the time, which was directory submissions. It was a very very, very simple job, but I was growing interest into it. I said, oh, hang on, this is not really working. I need to find new alternatives. And I'm kind of like self-taught, I was looking for more.
And at that time, were you working with Brazilian clients or Spanish clients or English clients?
No, just English clients, mainly English clients. And funny enough, some of those clients from these days are still our client nowadays.
Oh, really?
Got long-term clients like in London, for instance, this cleaning franchise that we help grow to a multi-location business nowadays, and they're still with us, So yeah, that's one of the perks that we have around with Hedgehog.
And then I guess that so you're working out of Spain, and at that time Hedgehog was a UK based agency, of course, right? And were the offices at that time when you were still in Spain, were the offices still in Cornwall at that time?
No, just Bedford. We originally come from Bedford, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So
we migrated southwest, southeast, southwest.
And then are there still those two offices, or is everybody mainly in the UK in Cornwall at the moment, or is it split between both?
Now, we're still split between both because I would say even our clientele in the UK, I still think we've got a bit more clients in Bedford than we have in Cornwall, because we tend to focus in the local areas in the UK.
And has that been reflected then in Brazil as well? Is it the case that, Deepak, when we look at our clients in Brazil, the heart or the hub is Sao Paulo in terms of the companies that we have contracts with and that type of thing, or has it become a lot more has it changed, I guess?
No, it's a completely different ball game down here from contracts and client points of view. Here we tend to have nationwide clients. We have loads of big e-commerces, but also one of the things that is helping us grow here is the fact that we position ourselves exclusively as an SEO agency, and a lot of multinational companies, big corporations that are in Brazil, that were in Brazil, and now giving more weight into SEO. They're looking for specialized agents with some background and so on. And the English language help us communicate with the international branches. So here's a different ballgame. We've got different contracts. We've got bigger clients, I'd say.
So that's probably a useful parallel, because in your opinion, and I don't like to use the word behind, but a lot of people use parallels. So a lot of people say the UK in terms of tech is maybe a couple of years behind the USA, as an example. Is your feeling, in terms of the market maturity, is the Brazil still very much in its early stages in terms of, or earlier stages in terms of understanding of SEO, the need for SEO, and therefore how you position it in terms of the sale?
No, not so much. If we were having the Hi, Deepak.
Hey, I'm back. I've got no idea what happened.
Me neither. Me neither. Hopefully, it was just like this. I saw my connection was good.
Yeah.
So,
So you can hear me okay?
yeah,
And
perfectly.
okay, perfect. So sorry, the last question I was asking was you were saying not so much in terms of
No, Brazil not so much behind. If we were having this conversation 2 or 3 years ago, I'd say yes. Now the clientele is more evolved. They still ask some silly questions around it, but it's easier to sell. You can go a bit more technical. You can be more detailed around. So no, it's quite equal. But the UK is still a bit ahead of us.
Yep.
And that, to be honest, gives us a little competitive advantage down here. You know, I do exploit that a bit. Having working in a more mature market like the UK, some things are more difficult to execute, but that gives us the knowledge to bring it down here and be more competitive. Let's say it.
No, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And then, so I'm just still fascinated by this journey that you've made, because you were the bartender. You switched. You went on this journey of learning about SEO as well as beginning to implement it. You were at your as you said, your flat in Alicante. You were at that time living with family in Spain. At what point, or if we trace your trajectory, your journey, was it Deepak? I was Alicante, then Bedford, then Cornwall, then Sao Paulo, or was it kind of a little bit different in terms of your movement?
It was slightly different. I've worked mainly from Spain. At the time, I did most of my time home officing from my flat in Spain. Then I came down to Brazil. That's when I started work for the UK, but based in Brazil again. So I rarely stayed much time in the UK at that time. I was trying to avoid winter.
What I've got to ask, what is the weather right now for you, my friend?
33 degrees.
Okay, 33 degrees. Brilliant. It's been pouring outside here in London earlier today. So fantastic. Okay, great. So then do you when you then go out kind of to the marketplace, one of the things you talked about was the USP. And I think that it's a really interesting challenge that a lot of kind of agencies will have, that how do we clearly define a USP? Everyone says that they can rank you well. Everyone says that they, a lot of people will talk in instances of doing the same thing. So what is the kind of Hedgehog narrative that's proven really powerful when you go into the meetings that you have or the prospective phone calls that you have? What is it that you talk about in terms of your SEO as a company that has helped you differentiate yourself?
Well, I think the secret is trying to talk less SEO and more business-wise, more marketing-wise. We try to avoid the technicalities. Oh yes, we try to avoid as much as technicalities as possible. Like, I'm an SEO that don't really worry too much about these algorithm updates, because might sound as a cliche, but the way we work, we're trying to focus more on the user, and that's where we get the results from. I see a lot of pandemonium going around. Oh, there's a core update and there's that and the other. And that's what we try to avoid our clients from learning or getting to know, because that kind of like puts a lot of technicalities into it and focusing too much on positioning. Obviously, I'm not going to be a hypocrite here saying that we don't focus on getting the first position, but we try to avoid that as much. We try to point them into the direction of how SEO can help them achieve their business goals. Like, how can we integrate SEO into their global marketing strategies, and how can that help them generate more businesses? That's the talk. That's the unique selling point that we bring to the table. Try to avoid, obviously, that we do an audit, that we talk about technicalities. We need to get into the nitty gritty of SEO, but our unique selling point, I would say, it's don't talk about SEO to sell SEO.
That's like super counterintuitive, isn't it, for a lot of people? There's I mean, I remember my Pearl Lemon as an agency, we've been around 3 years, but I do remember pre-agency life, and still even now we get pitched to do our own work or to subcontract it or to whatever, and I just remember the conversations that I've had, and it's a real challenge, I think, for a lot of people to not talk about, these are the keywords. we're going to build, X amount of links. So we're going to do these kinds of links, and just to talk in terms of kind of the commercials. Now, at what stage did you then move from building, let's say, links to actually talking commercials, and how was that transition for you? Because I presume it happened whilst you were still in Spain, then maybe even.
No, it was recently. I think 2 or 3 years ago when I wasn't joined the Hedgehog yet, but since 2 years ago, I'd say me and Alan have been having these discussions around we can't overcomplicate things. Sometimes we go into a conversation or a sales pitch and we're talking structured data and heading tags and this, that, and the other. And you sit there and you look at the client's face and it's going like, okay, yeah, oh yes, I understand that. And when you talk business, I think that's what we tend to get more attention of these guys. When I try to use different names for it, let's say building links, I talk about references. You need to build references for your website, mentions for your websites. And I use analogies like a link is like a vote, but with different weights. So I try to be as less technical as I can to sell SEO, because I've noticed that this change through, I would say, over the past few years. Before, we used to be contacted by the IT guys. Oh, we need SEO. So it's the technical guys, it's the developers that hire us. Nowadays, I would say the majority of the talks that we do is with marketing managers, marketing directors, CMOs, and you can't really go into the depth of talking technicalities with them. You need to make them understand how SEO can be integrated to their marketing budgets, to their overall strategies.
It makes so much sense about the transition from talking like about the commercial impact of SEO as opposed to the specific implications of a particular link. I want to for all of those that are listening. So Aaron, if you're watching, as well as I believe Jesse, Aaron asked an excellent question. You might already see it actually in the comments. Here we go. Brilliant. So have a read of that. I'm assuming the readers, the listeners and the viewers, you can see it, but fundamentally Aaron is asking about how to be productive or better management of his time, because he's got the beautiful problem of having too many clients and having himself ultimately to manage ultimately all of this clientele. So do you have any advice for what Aaron could do to help with his daily workflows?
Well, I would say, first of all, and I guess he already uses it, is pick up a good tool like Semrush to help you streamline your technical audits and some of your on-page stuff that will give you an edge or into automating some of your tasks. But pick some agile methodologies as well. We use Scrum and Kanban, so I call it Scrumban. So we use sprints with the methodology of Kanban to organize our day-to-day activities. And obviously we've got nowadays, I think 15 or 16 employees. So it's a bit bigger, but I would say if you organize yourself in that way, pick up a good project management tool. We've been through Trello, which is a good one. It's a free tool. Nowadays we are on Monday. So yeah, there's quite a few options out there. I would say pick up the right methodologies and tend to use tools that will help you automate your day-to-day work. Some of it, you can't do it, like link building. There's no way you can automate it unless you buy links, which I wouldn't recommend it. Some people would advise to it, but I wouldn't go for it. So
I mean, that advice is excellent. Scrum bum, I like that, guys. If you're listening,
hire someone.
Website Magpie. So apparently, all you need to do, Aaron, and I'm scrolling because I'm looking at the comments, is just to hire Website Magpie, because he or she will help you with some of your work. So yeah, absolutely. Aaron listen, Aaron, I'm also reading that you started offering and it's been learning on the job. I think that, building, okay, so there's a couple of things that I think I want to add to what Felipe has said that, I found to be essential. So the productivity tools are excellent. You have to work with a tool that you can live in. If you don't enjoy Trello, if you don't enjoy Kanban, if you don't enjoy Slack, then don't use a tool that you don't enjoy working with. Okay, that is one of the key things. Like I'm biased. I do love Semrush. Our whole team lives in it. I have tried to use Trello. I cannot for the life of me use Trello. Hey, Federico from Brazil. We've got another Brazilian in the house. So one of the things that's critical is that part. The second part of it is segmenting some of your work into buckets. Now, if you can't, for example, bring in another employee because maybe it's a £25,000 salary, there you go, purchase SEMrush. SEMrush, if you're watching,
ching.
Be happy. Ching. Exactly. So the other thing that is also critical for any of you who's struggling with daily workflows is look at anything that is well set up for virtual assistants to assist you with. So if there are manual parts of your link building, if you're using something, if you're building a link, or if you're doing blogger outreach of some kind, then with a script and something such as a email outreach tool, you know, there's Ninja Outreach, there's Lemlist, there's Woodpecker, there's many tools. There's ways that if you look at your work, you can begin segmenting them in respect of building processes. And I'm pretty sure, Felipe, given that you've got a 15-man organization, there's also processes that are involved across your entire team, I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that I'm always on those of my team, to get them to write down process and improve upon them. Now we are like on a quest of automating as much as we can in order to gain more time. I said, the more we automate, the more time we have to go to the beach and drink beers. So that motivates them. So, but process, it's very, very important, because as you grow, you need that, because otherwise things get lost. There's too much noise in the communication. So we're trying to build every day our wiki with information and videos and so on. So that way, that's I would say one of the most important things to scale things up. Process.
Makes sense. And we've got an excellent question from Jeff. Guys, you're coming with some really excellent questions. Please keep the questions coming in. And I think this is a huge one for many people that are on the chat. Many people have come because they're probably interested in, Felipe, how do we get more clients? How do we get medium, large clients for our SEO services? What's your direct advice to Jeff's question?
Well, this type of clients, they rarely come from, let's say, an email subscription or like a contact form. I tend to build up the bigger, medium to larger clients through like participating in webinars like this one, and speaking at events, and having my own YouTube channel, exploiting my personal brand. So my personal brand contributes a lot to the growth of Hedgehog.
So teen blogger, if you're watching, because I see your chat come up, rename yourself. Use your real name. Jeff Meakin, well done. You're using your real name. Add your picture, Jeff Meakin. Guys, you know, what Felipe is saying, and I'm really happy that question has been asked, because I also want to talk about your journey to becoming a respected SEO, and we'll go on to this kind of branding part to a large degree. But the whole principle of public speaking, okay? And if you're thinking that, oh, well, I'm not going to be on SEMrush tomorrow, guys, you know, I've done, or we've all done, I'm sure Felipe has done and continues to do, speeches at local events, speeches at local networking events, you know, just communicating and sharing your knowledge with a listening audience. So Felipe, can you talk and speak about your journey with, you talk about personal branding, you talk about like attending web, but how do you do that? For the person who's just starting out there thinking, oh, like how do I go on that journey? What's your advice to someone like that?
Well, first of all, get it out there, you know, try to map events around your area, meetups or big events, and don't be shy, you know, get you there, talk to the people that are speaking on the guy sitting next to you. You never know, he might be the organizer. I came across a lot of people in the industry, got to know a lot of people by doing that, you know, going out there, invest in some events. Some of them are quite dear, but I'd say it's really worth the money to do so. Some of them are cheap, but I would say get it out there, you know, because that's how you're going to meet people. That's how you're going to meet the industry people. And don't be shy above everything. I know it's easy to say that, but some people are shy. I'm not one of the most. I tend to be a little bit shy sometimes. It depends on where I am, but yeah, it's honest truth. But yeah, get it out there, trying to know people, or you have the social networks nowadays. Twitter, it's a very interesting for us SEO. There's a lot of people there. The community tend to be very receptive and try to talk to you sometimes. And so, yeah, I say exploit social channels and get it out there above everything. That's how you
exactly
get known and get the opportunities and pitch your ideas. You know, if you have something that you've been doing, so that's good. I always
Dan Thornton, you know, has some excellent advice to coincide with what Felipe is saying. Look, guys, networking and learning from other SEOs. So, you know, look, the reality is that you're on a webinar watching now. You're all leaving comments, which is fantastic. You know, Jeff has left comments. Teen Blogger, don't worry about using a personal YouTube profile. It's left comments, but you've got an opportunity here now to build relationships. You know, if you reach out to Felipe and say, look, I loved watching you on the webinar, it was amazing, and building up a personal relationship with him, I can personally tell you that I love getting messages like that, because who doesn't love a listening audience that's engaging? And it's always sensible, as you know, to shortcut your learning by speaking to people that maybe are a little bit further down the road than you are. So practically speaking, if you want to learn how to, you know, start and scale your own agency, Felipe, reach out to Felipe. Reach out to myself, you know, ask questions. And given that you've been here on this webinar, it's an excellent way to kind of shortcut your learning and to see if you can, you know, get into a position where, as I'll come to ask you now, you can become one of the most respected SEOs in Brazil. So, Felipe, without further ado, I'd love to understand that journey about, you know, how you've gone on to get that kind of reputation, because, you know, how did you get that? What did it take to get there? What's involved?
Well, speaking at events was one of the main criteria that helped me get there. You know,
and let's be specific. Can you give me a practical example of an event that you spoke at where you did something involving outreach? Because I think that maybe that would be really powerful for some of the audience. They're thinking, but how do I suddenly?
Well, we've got this event here in Brazil called RD Summit. It's like 14,000 people in 3 days in this town called Florianopolis. Okay. It's a massive event, massive, and I think it's the biggest digital marketing event in Latin America, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. One of the biggest in the world. And after I was invited to speak there 2 years ago, that also help build the authority. But there's also these awards here in Brazil from this organization of digital agencies and Digitogs, which is it's like a body that organizes and promotes digital marketing throughout Brazil, which is a continental country. And since 2015, I've been shortlisted as the top 3 SEO there. So 2015, I won. Ever since, I've just been a runner-up. I'm just feeling like Liverpool at the moment, but we're hopefully to win something. hopefully this is my year again.
Look, guys, I think that you know, if you know, look, I'm learning from this as well, my friends, because, you know, for myself, hearing Felipe's story, you know, I formally was, you know, begun my formal SEO journey, if you like. I worked as a freelancer independently for many years, but I set up my agency just a couple of years back. And, you know, I can say that, as Sam Tess was saying about Dan's comments, about Felipe's comments, I think kind of building a brand around yourself is absolutely a critical part of the journey. And what about going back to one of the questions that was asked about Sales Navigator and LinkedIn? So I've seen LinkedIn mentioned twice, okay? I think there's a running theme amongst people that, you know what, can I message 1,000 people in Brazil, Felipe, and can I build a business doing that? Because I think that that's probably the undercurrent of the message. What are your thoughts on prospecting when it comes to the outreach process of winning SEO clients? What would you say about how that process works, in your opinion?
Well, here it's just like any other country. You can't really message 10,000 people through LinkedIn. But what I tend to do, I have been exploiting quite a lot the algorithm of the platform, which organically is still quite good. So we tend to get quite a good reach on our posts, especially my personal posts. And they are reaching a lot of like interesting professionals, interesting companies. And this year alone, we managed to land at least 12 contracts from LinkedIn, from my personal account. So I exploit a lot of my personal brand on LinkedIn. And and we tend to, we don't really do much outreach. We tend to get business from like through our website and so on. We don't do like not just cold calls, but we don't have a strong lead generation strategy at the moment. We still, I think another lesson about growing is that you need to understand how fast can you grow, you know? So we have been building up to that. I think 2020 will be the year that we're going to be very aggressive with lead generation strategies and so on. But up until now, we have been like getting the businesses from my personal brand, Alan's personal brand, and the network that we have, participating at events, speaking at events, and so on. So right now, I wouldn't be the best guy to talk about lead gen outreach for you guys.
I'm going to interrupt you because you've already spoken about it. 12 clients from your LinkedIn personal kind of content funnel, if you will. Guys, if you're listening, I mean, the trick is here for all of you. And we're going to come to your question, Oliver, about speaking events, because I want to ask you about that also, Felipe. But for all of you, go and add Felipe on LinkedIn and start stalking his LinkedIn profile, right? I think the quote is from Picasso that great artists copy and the best artists steal, or something to that effect. I need to remember the exact quote. But go to Felipe's LinkedIn profile and have a look at what he's doing. And especially if you're, and we've got a very international audience here, guys. You've got a distinct competitive advantage if you're Dutch, if you're Serbian, if you're French, if you're competing in a market that isn't the global language of English. It does mean that you're probably likely to get even more reach. So that's a really good point here. And the question that I think Oliver was asking was about, as he mentioned, how do you get a speaking event? Were you invited? Do you pay to sponsor? Because you probably still get, I get an email or I get a LinkedIn email saying, Deepak, we found you. We'd love for you to come and speak at our Business Expo event. And then I've gone on the phone and I'm like, oh, I'm really interested. They're like, great, it's going to be £5,000 to come and have a stand and have a presentation. And to be honest with you, like, I'm thinking whether I should do it, but I've just not done it yet because what's your opinion on that whole approach?
Well, I'd say to start with, you have to sponsor it. You do have to pay to get up there, and then if they like you start to get invites and so on. So initially, yeah, you do have to, if I'd say reserve a little cash to sponsor an event, have a booth. We have a couple of events in Brazil. We're looking at a few in the UK now for this year in order to be present and get some stage time, you know. Sometimes that's all you got to do for people to get to know you. SEO especially, it's a very crowded a niche, especially for the event. You get Brighton SEO, you get ESMX events and so on. They all have brilliant speakers that have all high-end guys. And for you to get there, it's very hard. What you have to do, you have to come from the corners, cut the corners, get well-known. People need to talk about you. Then you get the opportunity to be out there, you know. So initially, you do have to sponsor it. I think if you read Fish King's biography, his book, he mentioned that in the beginning he used to pay to speak at events, and I think we all did it, and that's what you got to do.
Absolutely. So thank you, George from Go International. Good artist copy, great artist still. So there's another golden piece of advice from Felipe. That fundamentally, look, I think that one of the key things that I think is being underlined here is that prospecting is fundamentally about surrounding yourselves with people that have the wherewithal and the income and are the right people to potentially, buy into your services. So look, Felipe, you've just been invited, by the way, from Dan to come and speak. There you go. So you guys can connect after. There you go. This is an example in real time, by the way, of something that you can do. Dan has just introduced Felipe to say, come along and speak at an event, because, I think we'd love to come and hear you speak. And look, the fundamental premise is for all of you that are listening, that what you're paying for when you pay for a speaking event is to be a speaker in front of a captive audience that are potentially decision makers who are coming to listen to you about SEO. And all you need fundamentally is one contract that will pay you back 5 times from an event. And I think that's sometimes the fear that people have with where they should kind of allocate their marketing budget in a very crowded marketplace. So what talking about speaking events a little bit more, you mentioned Meetup, you mentioned of course the bigger events. How does someone go about getting a speaking event at one of the big Semrush conferences or Brighton or anywhere? Well, in your opinion, how would someone approach something like that?
Well, I think you need to have a really, let's take Brighton, for instance. You always get the opportunity to pitch your ideas. You just need to have a strong case. You need to understand the event. You need to see what people had talked previously. I would say it's very hard for you to try to pitch an idea before going to the event, to understanding the level of knowledge that you have there. But I would say this is from my personal strategies, I tend to, obviously, I never spoke at Brighton. I always pitch the idea there. I want to get someday. I'll never give it up, Kelvin. So, But I've been doing like different digital marketing events, business events, where there's the eager for people to learn more about SEO. And I go there, I do talks about SEO without really going technical, talking much more about search intent and how can you integrate things. And that's where I'm getting quite good contracts from, because the marketing guys, most of the times, they are not at the SEO events. SEO, let's say Brighton SEO will be a massive personal gain for my personal brand and my achievements and so on. But I think the big clients, the good clients, are at different events. They are a more broader events, So if you can get an opportunity to pitch at those places, and most of the times, they are lacking a good SEO talk. I'll give you an example. I speak at the Digital Enterprise Show in Madrid.
Okay.
I spoke last year. I'm going this year again. And it's a massive show. There's massive companies there, from Tesla to not Nokia, Microsoft, and, and that's where you get to talk with these different guys, CMOs, directors, and so on. And if you do a good talk, and most of the times they approach me because they said, "Oh, you just did an SEO talk without talking anything technical." That's amazing. So try to think different, be unique. I think that's what you have to do. Try to. No, I'm just gonna go with.
Be like Steve Jobs. Think different. I like that.
Yeah. That's it. True.
I think that I've got to completely concur with my personal experience of building out an agency. That as it's developed, I think that you really, really realize that the less you talk technically when you're positioning your agency as a company to do business with, the more successful you are. The technical talks are for once you kick off a campaign and you're working internally with their development team or with their technical team or any of these kinds of elements. And I think that that's a key and critical thing. In terms of pitching, by the way, just so you know, if you're interested in featuring as an SEO agency owner, whether you're a freelancer, whether you're a actual, head of CSO, whatever you are within your business, feel free to leave a comment in the actual YouTube comments. We've also got the episodes that are going to be appearing, where this show is going to be running once every 2 weeks. There's another show which I think the Semrush will leave a comment for, that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So if you'd like to, of course, appear on the show, as Felipe does, where I can talk to you about your SEO journey, your SEO success story, and how you've built your agency, I'd love to personally hear from you. You can also, of course, sign up for that forthcoming webinar where you'll be hearing from Ross Tavendale. So Felipe, coming back to kind of your story then, how is the work spread between countries? I mean, let me ask it a little bit differently. One of the biggest challenges, and I think that Jeff or one of the guys may have mentioned, it might have been Dan, about getting overwhelmed. One of the biggest challenges that I've personally faced is dealing with all of the different relationships and the different styles. I've got some clients who will message our guys 15 times a day. And then I've got other guys who message us once every 3 weeks. And then you've got people that have completely different expectations, that some of them are all about the technical details. Another person is all about the actual commercials. Some of them will say that, oh, I understand how SEO works. But then 6 weeks will pass and they said, oh, we've not made any sales yet. how, in your experience, has been the management of the different relationships that you face within this business?
Well, it's very interesting that you asked, Deepak, because we've got people from all over the world working with us. And no, I mean, all over the world. I mean, we've got people in the UK, but not mainly just Brits. We've got Polish. We've got Alex, which, excuse me, Alex, I forgot where you're from, but she's not, I think it's Romania, if I'm not wrong. Sorry if I got it wrong. Then we have Josh and Alice that are from the UK. Then we have the team here in Brazil. And we have Marek that's in Poland. That's our head of development. You know, we've got people all over the place in different styles. You know, that's the beauty around understanding. Oh, there she is.
Romania. You got it right.
Alex, got it right. Thank you.
Alex is very pleased. Well done. You were about to get fired, by the way. You saved yourself.
Oh, God. And it's interesting because each one has a different style. So you need to understand a lot more about people than just simply management and so on. But we tend to have like specialists in each area. Like in Brazil, we exploit a lot like the link building side of things, or media, if we will. And we don't work with people that know SEO. We work with journalists. All the team, the link building team in Brazil are journalists, and it's totally different ballgame. So we don't, it's not very technical. And to talk with clients, we have our project managers, like Rafa is one of them, which happens to be my wife as well. So yes, I'm crazy. I work with my wife. So if you want to get things even more crazier, that's it. Yeah.
Talking of crazy, there's been a good question that Rishab has just asked. I think you saw it probably, Felipe, as well. That thank you, SEO, Team Semrush. Thank you, Anton. What have you had a mentor? I guess that what Rishab is asking is that he feels a little bit like he's not got a mentor, and it's a little bit like becoming part of the network and having people that maybe, you know, you can WhatsApp or Slack or email or just quickly, you know, have a phone call. How critical have mentors been as part of your journey? And when answering that question, because you're probably going to say, I have had mentors, I want to also know, how did you go about finding a mentor? So both kind of two questions in one.
Well, I must say that I have been quite lucky in my journey with that. First of all, I've met Alan, which was the guy that introduced me to SEO, and still a guy that I exchange a lot of knowledge and we exchange a lot of thoughts, and he teaches me a lot as well. I learn a lot from him. But back in the days that I was away from Hedgehog, I was working at this agency here in Brazil called SEO Marketing. And there was the owner, Bernard Schutz, which you're gonna be crazy. His name is Bernard Schutz. He was born in Portugal and lives in Brazil. And he was a great mentor to me as well. So he great knowledge in SEO, a lot of different thinking, you know, thinking a different perspective into the game. And I was very lucky. I must say that I had two good mentors in this journey to maybe become who I am nowadays. And that was really easy. I was very, very lucky, to be honest.
Guys, I think that you're hearing the importance of mentorship. It's a huge thing. If you get Paul Lavelle, I think you've just joined. Hello, Paul. If you're able to put his message back up on the screen, Anton, it doesn't matter if you can't. But I just want to say that mentorship is huge, right? For, you know, and don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, I run an SEO agency. I'm here. I put a Facebook status update asking several SEO experts or anybody if they could review our site to tell us exactly what was wrong with it. Paul Lavelle, I want to give you a shout out. You came on and you offered up your time and gave us some absolutely amazing advice. Whatever level you're at within your SEO journey, there's always, you know, the general consensus is that people want to help you win. And if someone recognizes that you're on your journey and you're trying to make your way, then more often than not, they're happy to, you know, offer you some impartial advice. Paul was one of those people for me. And I think that, you know, as Felipe has described, that for you, Rishab, if you're worried and that you don't have an SEO like executive, as you call it, but maybe a mentor, just reach out to people. Honestly, you know, send a message to Felipe, send a message to myself.
Yeah, please feel free. Yeah,
exactly. You might not always get a yes. Often people get busy, but all you need is one or two people that take a liking to your style and an expert is very relative. It's really someone who's a bit further along your journey. Web Ella, I want to pick up your message. So this is not about technical questions. So if you guys have got questions about, you know, link building, about keyword density, about URL, anything that's technical, this show is dedicated for anyone who's in the process of thinking about starting an agency, trying to grow an agency, is within an agency and understanding, well, how can I contribute to the growth of my agency? And almost a little bit like Felipe was saying about how your personal brand can become really powerful in building your professional brand. And it sounds like, you know, that's been a huge thing for Felipe. So I want to continue with another question that for me has been really, really interesting. How was the journey? Because you went from a director of an agency, I believe, in Brazil, to setting up the Hedgehog digital headquarters in Brazil. I think there's a lot of people, I mean, that find it scary stepping out on their own to build an actual agency, because there's practical parts of it, right?
Yeah.
It's very different to go from living, and I think there's a lot of people in the audience that might be living at home with family or with friends, or maybe in a full-time, part-time job, and they're thinking, how can I build an agency that's strong enough to not only provide for paying my rent and bills, but actually grow so I can have a good standard of living? So what could you talk a little bit about your transition from deciding to be a director of an agency to, you know, setting up a whole new office? Because it feels like to me that must be quite a scary thing.
Oh, it certainly is, because you leave the certainties of having your payments every month and so on, and your bonuses, and your, like here in Brazil we have like paid vacations and so on. And to give this jump, I think the first and most important thing was that, again, I was fortunate to have this invitation by Alan to build something together and help Hedgehog grow. And having known him previously, I think that was one of the things that helped me transition quite smoothly, but still scary, because the uncertainties of joining a business and not being kind of like an employee anymore, and having to care about people. And the thing changes with clients, especially because, okay, I always cared about the clients, even when I was a director. But when you're like managing, it's different, because you think, oh, I can't leave that client because that's going to affect our bottom line and so on. It's a totally different game. You tend to care more about the clients, so you get a bit more scary about it, and you get more zealous about your clients, you know. So, but the transition is, if I would give any advice to say people that are working at an agency or doing freelance work to build things up, if you have a steady base of clients that you can rely on, and you have a good relationship of, say, 3 or 4 clients that you think can pay the bills, I would definitely go for it. But have a plan to scale things up, you know, have a plan to build more clients, to get more clients. Ever since I planned that, we had a clear mindset. We had a clear plan of action to grow. Obviously, there are bumps along the way. Not everything goes as planned. I'm going to say I live a perfect life, because I'll be lying. There are setbacks, but and again, you need to be prepared to setbacks, I'd say.
Yeah.
Not always going to move forward. There will be times, there will be hard times that you're gonna, okay, I lost that guy, we need to go for another one. But it's important to keep motivated. If you love what you're doing, which I kind of like, I can't see myself doing anything about from SEO. And every time they say SEO will die, I just go, no, please don't. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I think above everything, be passionate, and you're gonna do fine. That's it.
So guys, passion was huge. Having some stable clients if you're making the transition. Sergey, we're going to come to your question. It's an excellent one. Thank you for putting that up. Building so guys, there's been a lot of things that as we're coming to the last 6-7 minutes, I want to summarize some of the things that are kind of, for me, important takeaways. Number one, local networking events where you can start public speaking. Felipe mentioned Meetup. You can go and speak for free at a local business event. And there's also cheaper events than the ones that cost thousands of pounds. There's your local business networking events where you can do power breakfast. There's a lot of events where you can start speaking locally, right? You can, if you're not yet got any content online, you can take a video camera to those events and you can start recording your own actual speeches. Okay, so that's just to add to what Felipe was saying. He mentioned if you're managing a team, they use Scrum and Kanban, but Scrum Bum, I think he called it. He called it. So that's kind of an example of a management workflow. His LinkedIn profile, if you're not connected with him, do connect with him because he's got his status updates. He said he won 12 contracts, right? That's double digits. That's a dozen. That's 12 contracts from his personal LinkedIn profile, which has been absolutely huge. And also, I think when he talked about making the transition, a lot of it is based upon relationships. Alan has been instrumental upon his journey. Think about the relationships that you can build in SEO, much like the journey of building out a client's SEO. What I'm really hearing is that it's a long-term journey, and that if you're looking to go from 0 to 20 clients, bartending is just as much fun. then you know, you do have to question if this is the right industry for you. There's a lot of agency owners that come into the agency space because their perception is that, you know what, I can pick up some marketing clients and I can just make some money and I don't really know what I'm doing. And you can definitely do that. But to build a long-lasting brand with a good reputation in the marketplace that will still be around in 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, 15, 20 years, you got to, you know, Felipe started in 2006. It's 2020 now. It's been 14 years. It doesn't mean that it takes 14 years to build a successful agency. You can do it, of course, in your own timeline, but you got to have the journey in mind. So it's just some of these things that I think Felipe has distilled really, really well. And the question that I think stood up, no, let me find it, about the niche. Okay, Sergey that you asked, it's a great question. Is it better to create a niche-based SEO agency to target leads, or to create an SEO agency in general? What's your opinion, Felipe?
Well, that's a long last discussion between me and Alan. Alan has always been a guy that liked these verticals. I was more of a generalist, but I'm convincing that verticals is a good way to start your business. It's a good way to grow as well, because what we've been doing lately is build case studies around different areas. I mentioned the cleaning industry, tourism. One of the things that motivated me the most to make this move with Hedgehog was that the sports side of business. You know, I love sports. I do CrossFit, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, skateboard, a bit of surfing. Yeah, all over the place. So, yeah. And Alan is also passionate about it in football, not to mention Brazilian, an English guy. And yeah. And this is one of the things that motivated us to build this thing, this vertical, sports, you know, become a sports agency specialized in SEO. Sports also is very broad. So we started to look into football. Alan has a blog that he built, I think it was around 2006 as well, which is called Footy Boots. It's quite a reference in like football boots and so on, which I used to write for back in the days. And long story short, definitely, yes, focus on verticals. I think you stand a good chance. Try to avoid servicing same clients around the same area or the same specific industry to avoid complications down the line. I've seen that happen quite a few times. But yeah, verticals are a very good way to scale your business up.
So guys, verticals, I think, you know, I'll add to that in saying that I don't recall, but if you look at both of our agencies, we're not a niche specific agency. It's not the case that Hedgehog or Pearl Lemon only service one industry. The challenge that many of us have is that it's difficult to say no if you get good work that comes in that is going to be a good client that isn't niche specific. So the tendency for many of us, of course, is to say yes to that kind of work. So I think that the one thing that niche agencies do incredibly well is, of course, the positioning and also the specialism that you build. The challenge that probably many of the audience have, which is the same challenge, I'll be honest with you, that I have, that probably Felipe has, that it takes time and patience to say, to just do one niche. And it also is really hard to say no to clients that you think would be good clients. And to that end, I think that if you have the time and the patience, because that's the big thing, if you have the patience to build a niche only agency, we only work on sports related SEO or football, or advertising, or an agency SEO agency. We only work with other agencies. as an example, right? Whatever. If you have the actual patience to do that, then amazing. Most of us probably don't. I'll be honest with you. Most of us probably don't, which is why it's a huge challenge. So, guys, we've got about 3 more minutes left, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a lot of the questions for those people that have asked that have not been answered. Felipe, I want from you maximum 60-second answers. Do you think you can do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, great. So, guys, I'm going to try and go through some of the questions that I see here. Number 1. From Trendinix, how do you deal with customers only seeking for fast results through SEO? What do you do?
Well, I try to avoid those guys because they're going to be a bit of a pain, you know. I try to educate them. If they still want fast results, that don't matter how much I have to pay. I said, no, our initial assessment shows that it's impossible to do so. So we tend to turn them down.
Okay,
not
brilliant.
It's hard, but, you know, sometimes they come with a lot of money, but it's just going to be trouble. I try to avoid that.
And I think that Trendinix is probably a white label agency, because he's now then asked, and it's a really great question, what do you do when someone else has sold it for you and then you're due to deliver the work? What do you do in that instance where he's saying that other agencies are offering promises to clients to win the work and then you're the one who's due to deliver the work? What would you do in that kind of situation?
Well, we do quite some SEO white label stuff for Brazil, for like international agencies, for other companies. But if I don't get a clear scope of the project or what was sold, I tend to not get into it, because again, it's just going to be a lot of hassle with the team, and I try to not put too much stress on them. Obviously, we put pressure, but we tend to give them a nice life, let's say it.
Okay, got it. Good answer. I like that. So next question from Surab. Surab was asking, how do we brand ourselves? Do we brand ourselves as the CEO or the CSO of Hedgehog Digital, or as an SEO specialist, or what? What do you have as an answer to how you brand your personal brand?
I think SEO specialist and SEO expert, it's something that you need to put the money where your mouth is, you know.
Shweta has put a comment where her mouth is. Fantastic. Sorry, I interrupted.
Labels are it's just labels, you know. Anyone can go in their LinkedIn account and edit. I think what you need to have is substantiality to prove what you're doing, you know.
Okay, perfect.
Especially that you're the expert.
So next question that we've got, and we're going to take 3 more questions, guys. The next question I've got is Dan Thornton asked the question, with so many businesses starting up SEO, with so many people starting up SEO businesses these days, how do you focus on doing what you're doing and not getting distracted by, oh, well, maybe you could also offer like, you know, ads to these guys because they need PPC as well. Or maybe you could offer them this. How do you deal with that challenge?
Well, I think we went down that road. We used to get a few PPC accounts, and it's not our specialty. We try to avoid that, because that way it ends up giving a bad experience to the client, a bad perception as well, and that spoil a really good SEO work. So we tend to stick with what we do. Mind you, in the UK, we're not just SEOs. We do have the web design branch. We do a bit of creative work. Anyway, but yeah, we try to laser focus on our core abilities. You know, we try to avoid all the others that we could do it, but we won't do as good as, so without compromising too much. So try to stick with what you're good at. That's the point. Money's not always the end result.
Okay, makes sense. Shweta, contact us anytime. I've got 2 more questions for Felipe before we love you and we leave you, ladies and gentlemen. So Cassian's got an excellent question that I think you'll be really, really well placed to answer. So Cassian is asking, how difficult is it to work with a remote team in really different time zones and making sure you're on the same page strategy? You're a worldwide agency. How do you deal with the time zones?
Right, I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning every day. So I start to work at 5:30 because
wake up early.
Yeah. I saw you guys, you, Craig, and Ross in that 4:30. My days start at 5 a.m. in the morning and goes to about 7 in the p.m. at night, just working hours. So you just have to do long shifts. I try to organize quite well, have a good not contact point, but a good team, the responsible team back in the UK and here. Like in the UK, I do my dailies with Alex almost every day to get everything sorted. So sometimes you don't really need to be 100% on time, like micromanaging it. Just half an hour calls, align what's gonna go and what's going on, and that's it. You good to go. Obviously, you do need to follow up and everything on a weekly basis, but I find it that 30-minute calls with the team every day, it's good to get things going, and then obviously a follow-up every week and so on. So yeah, I'd say get up early, get organized, and forget about sleeping.
So get up early, get organized, 30-minute calls, regular check-ins, and that will serve you a long way. So it's a final question I'm going to ask you, Felipe. I've been spying it because I think this is a really good question. At what frequency do you, and this is from Jan Peter, by the way, Jan Peter, if you're looking, Anton, to try and find the question, how often do you communicate with your clients? What frequency, what is the KPIs around communication? That would be really good to understand. What is the appropriate amount to communicate with clients, in your opinion?
Well, at least once a month when we send out the monthly reports. Every month we tend to send out the reports in the first week, and each project manager, like me, Rafa, sometimes Alex as well in the UK, we present the report to the clients. So we talk to them, we show the results, what was done, what's planning ahead. So that is the time for us to get close to the clients and understand what's their pain points, and if they're happy with, get the perception if the work is going well. So I would say at least once a month, but we don't tend to limit ourselves to emails or a phone call when it comes in, but we try to make the client understand that it's not simply, like I call it, it's not a bakery. You just don't walk in there and get something and walk out. So client education in that, understanding that we have methodologies, we have priorities. So if it comes with a request today, you can phone me, but if it's in the middle of a sprint, I'm not going to stop and do it.
Yeah.
Only next Monday. So educate, don't be afraid to say no to clients.
Guys, I think that's an excellent point at which to finish off, I guess, fundamentally. Vikas, I know you've got a question. Please do, for digital marketing, tune in to Semrush, of course, and watch the videos here. But seriously, look, Felipe, personally, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for that. I mean, I learned some personal things. I'm going to go and stalk your LinkedIn. I'm going to check out my local meetups. I'm going to think about a Kanban and the Scrum. And, you know, I think that the beautiful thing about, from myself, from one agency owner talking to someone else who's heading up an agency in Brazil, is that, you know, you learn every time that you connect with someone who's part of your community, and someone like Felipe, you know, who's been amazing at sharing advice with the Semrush audience, has been fantastic. So Felipe, I want to thank you for your time, first of all, and thank you, audience, for listening. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you attend the next webinar. As you can see, it's in the link below. It'll be me and Ross Tavendow in the next webinar. And of course, if you want to get in touch with Felipe, you can find him through Semrush. His LinkedIn, I believe, is in the comments. You can, of course, connect with me if you'd like to be a part of these shows. And thank you, finally, for the last time, Felipe.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Deepak, for having me. Thanks for the invite, Semrush, Anton, and everybody. And yeah, pleasure to talking with you guys. And feel free to reach out on LinkedIn with me, Twitter as well. SEO Bazon, SEO Bazon as well. So yeah, and feel free to invite me to speak at your meetup or your conference. I'm in Europe from May onward. So yeah.
exactly, guys. Here. And look, Dan, thank you for your comments as well. I'm going to be here every 2 weeks talking about how you can start and scale a 4, 5, 6, or 7-figure agency, just like Felipe and his team has done. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Semrush.
Cheers, guys.